Hi, Andy.
Mr. Martinez. I'm not hiding in the secret trailer tonight. I'm in my office today.
Well, Andy, I did want to let you know that all 5 board members are currently present and in the room.
Oh, good.
We have we have some other guests that are still signing in, so we're up to 16 people in the audience.
Okay.
So we'll just keep admitting and as people sign on.
Okay. And we'll get rolling here in 1 minute, I think. No, right now, if everybody's ready. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll call this meeting of the Central Curry School District Board of Directors to order on Wednesday, June 17th, 2020 at 6 p.m. via Zoom. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I haven't figured out a good way to do this.
There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Anybody have the mission statement handy?
I have it, Andy.
Okay, you're on.
The mission of the Central Curry School District #1 in partnership with families and community is to ensure each and every student is prepared to succeed and contribute in a global society by engaging in a challenging, personalized program of educational excellence.
Perfect, thank you. All right. Obviously nothing on agenda item number 2 tonight, so we'll move to number 3, changes to the agenda. I have nothing. Anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay. We'll move straight to number 4, approval of consent agenda, which consists of approval of the May 20, 2020 meeting minutes and approval to hire licensed personnel Darby Miller as a Riley Creek teacher. Any questions on that one or comments on the minutes? I read them. Good to me.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. No, Luke can second. And then we'll do the roll call vote here. Scott McNair.
Aye.
Luke Martinez.
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen.
Aye.
Kaylee Clarno.
Aye.
And Andy Wright is an aye. Okay. Before we get started on citizen input tonight, I have a prepared statement I'm going to read on behalf of the board. And I have it, I printed it off. My phone was too small to read off. In light of the newspaper ad and recent social media posts, we feel the need to make a statement on some of the issues that are being discussed. To begin, I want to say that we hear you loud and clear about the need for the 12th Riley Creek elementary teacher. We share that common goal. The board has had multiple conversations in the past year about this subject in a series of public meetings, some that included staff members. The conversation we must have is about the process to get there. 4 of the 5 of us have kids in the affected grades. We are very aware of the situation and support adding teachers to the affected grades. That is evidenced by the fact that we now have, as of about a minute ago, 11 teachers on staff in K-5. And I am going to say loud and clear that the district has every intention of hiring the 12th teacher if we get sufficient funding from the state. The budget we are about to vote on has appropriations for the 12th teacher. The district will make plans when we have final appropriations from the state. This is a prudent and responsible course of action, and it is one that is echoed by other districts throughout Oregon. We are in a waiting period until the legislature meets later this month. This leads me to the next point I would like to make. The school board has hiring, firing, and supervision authority over one district employee and one district employee only, the superintendent. All other staffing decisions are made by the administration. This is not a structure we set up for our district specifically. It is mandated by state law. I would encourage everyone to go to the Oregon School Boards Association website and read about school board roles and responsibilities. Our job is policy and governance. We do not participate in the day-to-day running of the district. Whenever there is an issue, our conduit to the staff and their conduit to us is through the superintendent. That's where the conversations start. Sometimes they get elevated to the board, sometimes they don't. I bring this up because some of the conversation seems to stem around the administration's ability to hire and fire staff. The superintendent is the CEO of the district and has complete legal authority to staff the district. I would also ask everyone, please review the rules regarding public meeting. Public agencies are liable for comments made during public meetings. There are many topics that cannot be discussed publicly, so the board must have some level of oversight, and that task has been made more difficult with the use of Zoom and like technologies. It is common practice for agencies to take public comment via comment cards or email, and we will continue to solicit written comments, and the instructions are posted on the district website. Please know that we do appreciate and need your continued participation on that front. I would next like to address the idea that we should withhold pay increases for certain staff members of the district. Our intention is to treat all of the employees of the district equitable. We do not intend to withhold a pay increase from one specific group of employees while another group receives said pay increase. As I stated in the May meeting, if the allocations from the state do not meet our budget needs, we will work to find a solution that is equitable, well thought out, and puts students first. It's true that some of the group of people being singled out do not have direct student contact, but they make sure the buses run, the kids get fed, the staff gets their paychecks, health insurance, retirement benefits, and the buildings have power, water, internet, etc. We could not run a school district without these things. Lastly, I want to comment on one other point from the meeting last month. During the state budget discussion, Superintendent Wilson took extra care to explain that the numbers he was about to give us were the worst case scenario that was developed to put pressure on the legislature. It is not and was never our intention to make layoffs or cut school days in the amounts discussed. I want to make that clarification extremely clear. And in closing, I would like to politely ask everyone to consider what the board members get out of serving on a public board. We do not get paid. It's not a resume enhancement, and it is certainly not for the glamour. We all ran because we thought the school district could be better, and we wanted to be part of the solution, not the problem. What we get most of the time is stress and anxiety surrounding these tough decisions that must be made. We often end up in conflicts with our friends and even family over school board matters. The world is in turmoil right now, and I understand frustration is running high. All we ask is for a little patience, to remember we're all human beings and we are all working toward the same goal. Thank you. And I will now turn it to Mr. Wilson with some written comments for this portion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wright. I would like to read some comments that were submitted via email. And the first one is from Perry Kashaba. I would like the school board to consider allowing first topic, I would like the school board to consider allowing questions to be asked at the end of each agenda item or at the end of the meeting. This would demonstrate transparency because currently no comments are allowed after the initial questions at the beginning of the meeting. Many questions come up as agenda items are being discussed, and concerned citizens are not allowed to comment. This results in frustration due to questionable and inaccurate information being voted upon without potentially helpful input for board members to make informed decisions. The second topic, student safety should be a top priority for our district. Having been a substitute teacher in Mr. Becker's wood and metal shop classes many times over the past 6 years, I have witnessed the environment he and the students have to deal with on a daily basis. One, the intercom has never worked in either room during my 6 years subbing for him. This is a major safety issue. If there were an injury to a student, rapid communication with the office is impossible. If there were an active shooter in the building, shop students and the teacher would not receive the message. If there were an earthquake offshore, shop students and the teacher would not receive the tsunami alert. When announcements are made by the principal to the students in the school, including impromptu events, shop students are left out, not included. Secondly, the heaters in the metal shop do not work at all. Students struggle to be academically successful when they are fighting to stay warm because the room feels like a freezer. They huddle around the teacher-provided heater and are not able to focus on tasks. 3, there are numerous buckets placed around the wood shop to catch the water when it rains. One bucket is located next to the belt sander. In addition, 2 55-gallon trash cans are necessary to hold the amount of water that pours through the roof in the wood shop when it rains. Even during a minor drizzle, water still leaks into the floor. Next, all the electrical plugs and breakers must be turned off by the teacher during the summer to ensure the shops do not catch fire and burn down when it rains. Next, these are issues that have been brought to the attention of the superintendent and building principal many times. Why these issues have not been addressed is not acceptable. These are concerns that, if brought to the attention of OSHA, the local fire department, and/or emergency response team, would result in huge fines and possibly the closure of the school. In conclusion, we have a summer break that just beginning that should provide more than adequate time to find solutions to these issues. A lot of the routine school maintenance should nearly be complete since students have been out of the building for months. I know this is true at Riley Creek. It should be a priority to fix these problems that directly impact student safety and learning. Sincerely, Perry Kashaba, 35665 Coy Creek Road, Gold Beach. The second comment comes from Jeremy Skinner, Library Director of the Curry Public Library. As the director of the Curry Public Library, the past 4 months have been under a high degree of stress about the welfare of our staff, the general public, and the children that take advantage of our programs. The notion that my decisions could have life or death consequences is not an easy reality. I have read the Oregon Department of Education's requirements for schools and youth programs like ours, and I'm well aware of the immense challenges of meeting these standards. Throughout this time, I have been impressed with the school district's ability to navigate this environment, make the best of the situation, provide critical use services, work collaboratively with the library, and indeed support the library's programs. Given the sleepless nights I have experienced thinking about everyone's safety, I can only imagine what it is like for district administrators and directors. On a personal note, I would also like to thank Superintendent Wilson for stepping outside of the immediate scope of his job to spend weekend time volunteering in the community as Rotary Club President. Thank you all for helping us through this challenging time. Sincerely, Jeremy Skinner. Those were the 2 comments we received prior to our meeting tonight.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We'll move on to district reports. Crystal, you are up. Are you here, Crystal?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I emailed your reports to you, the regular monthly reports that you receive. I don't know if you have any questions. I just wanted to bring your attention to a couple items on them. The first one was the disbursement detail listing, so our accounts payable list, and it was front and center, first thing on there. I wanted to point out the payment to Bank of New York Mellon for over $355,000, and you can see that's our annual bond payment. The principal was $330,000 this year, and then of course the interest that goes along with that. The principal is only paid once per year, and the interest is paid twice per year. Was there any questions on the accounts payable list besides that? Okay. On your revenue list, a couple things. Of course, most of the time we're looking at the general fund. If you look at the top two lists, the current year and prior year taxes, you can see we're getting really close to hitting our target. I believe we're going to be incredibly close to that target. And then the last one would be down at the state school fund, which is function 3101. If you see it there, it's about in the middle of the page. You can see what we budgeted, what we received, and we hit it right at about 100%. And we have received our final payment from the state school fund. Our final payment does come in May, so we shouldn't be getting any more. The expenditure reports. On the bottom of the first page, once again, looking at general fund, you can see that the percent used is right at about 70%. So we're well under budget right now. Wanted to remind you that the majority of our staff do receive about 25% of their salary and benefits in the month of June. So even though that number is pretty low right now, it is going to greatly decrease by the end of next month. Excuse me, increase. The percentage will increase closer to 100. And then you also have your cash balance. You can see we're looking pretty good right there. The fund balance that I budgeted for is holding as of right now. So that is good news as well. And then I believe there's also, I have a food service report on here. I'm going to hold off on this a little bit. We did go under, or had an annual review. They call it a monitoring visit. The reality is it's an audit of the program, and we did have that audit this year. We do have a board policy regarding this. We also had an administrative regulation regarding meal charging. That was not enough, however, and so I created another meal charging policy on top of that to get us through the audit. And I will probably present that next month. I will be working hopefully this next week with the child nutrition program to discuss some of these new programs that are being offered and wanting to find out a little bit more about what kind of funding from the corporate activity tax really did come through and what we are going to be eligible for next year. So I want to hold off a little bit longer on that one until I get a little bit more information on where we are with the new programs.
Okay. Any questions for Crystal?
Thank you, Crystal.
Moving on. Thank you.
Crystal.
Principal reports. We will start with Mr. Denning. You're up first.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2. Oh, there it is.
I'm here. Sorry. I just noticed my hair is a little messy, so I better put on a hat. All right. Got to look good here.
We were judging you.
I'm worried about Zoom because, you know, I saw a study the other day that 75% of the time you look at your face and not the faces of the other people. So I think that's true. So I had to wear my good old Gold Beach hat. Not a lot tonight. I do want to thank you, those of you that were able to come to the graduation. The drive-through graduation was very successful. Almost all of our graduates made it. There were a couple that were out of town that were not, but it was so well received. I've gotten many comments that we should do the same thing again next year. So depending on this COVID, we may have to, but that's something we'll definitely look at, because one thing that's been a kind of worrisome over the last few years is the amount of money that parents have been spending on graduation for their daughters and sons to spend several $100s on an outfit that they only wear that night. So it's definitely something we'll look at for next year. And it was actually a lot of fun. So thank you guys for showing up, and we'll see what we can do next year on that too. I want to thank you for approving Darby Miller as our 11th teacher right now for K-5. I know the team and I were super impressed. I think she's going to be a great fit in our community, and the kids are going to absolutely love her, and the staff will too. She's a very energetic, very spirited, and I think just a perfect fit for Riley Creek. So I'm very excited to have Darby Miller join us this late summer, I guess, early fall. And that's, well, I guess I could add into, if anybody that has social media presence, if they can get the word out there. I'm fielding a lot of calls and emails from parents that are worried that they've got to find daycare for a couple days a week because we're going to go to a staggered day. In other words, half the class will come on Monday, Wednesday, and that's we're not even looking at that right now. So if we can let everybody know that we're planning on opening, we're going to have lots of sanitation guidelines in place. We're going to have lots of social distancing. The big concern right now is our common areas, the cafeteria, the playgrounds and things like that, and the restrooms, of course. But we're planning on opening. It's going to look a little different, but we're still planning on having every child every day. And so if you guys could spread that around and let everybody know that we will share that information with our parents as soon as we make some final decisions, because things are changing from the state. It's going to be a long summer for administration, because we have got to get all these guidelines in place before the teachers come back in about 2 months, a little bit over 2 months, they'll be coming back. And we have a lot of things we have to do to get everybody safe and secure. And like Perry said in his comments earlier, safety and security is number one. And this COVID thing is going to be our number one priority. And then teaching will kind of come along with it. But thank you guys for all your support. And I'm looking forward to a busy summer, but also kind of a change of pace now. I'm still working out of my kitchen, as you can see, and it'll be nice, hopefully, to get into my office real soon and permanently. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything. If that's my report.
All right. Yep, doesn't sound like it. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Mr. Denning.
Mr. Metzger.
I'm going to adjust a little bit. My mic has been having a little trouble picking up. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So I'm going to keep things fairly short, but I have a couple of different things I wanted to address tonight. Number one was the end of the school year. Teachers finished first week, students finished the first week of June. Teachers were last week. All grades are going home. They're being processed as we speak, and as set by the state, they'll be going home as a pass incomplete format. Grades are going out soon, but it's been a challenging shift in the format from graded to pass incomplete. You would think it'd be fairly simple. Well, when you look at things like transcripts and credit accumulation and the reports that are sent from the high school every year, it becomes a little more complicated, and there were some things that we had to work out, but they should be going home anytime. Our incomplete rate was pretty low. The data that we do have shows some areas for improvement. The teachers are committed to helping students complete all grades starting when they get back to work in August. However, we've made all work available online now for students to complete over the summer, so they can walk in on day one of school and have everything ready to get a completed grade, and we will update their transcript. I wanted to say a special thank you, and I probably could have if I had been had a little more forethought to say for the celebrations aspect. I wanted to say thank you to the community for participating in graduation this year. All seniors who started this year at GBHS graduated on time and had the opportunity to participate in graduation. The ceremony was fantastic. It was great to see people moving through the center of town. The two schools are physically more or less the center of town, and it was nice to see them see the community come out and show that they're the metaphorical center and heart of the town. It was an amazing thing to see how many people came out, were parked across the street, and were just there to cheer on our kids as they drove across that stage and stuff like that. It made for a really memorable occasion, and honestly, many of the things that happened will probably be things that we look to keep in our graduation ceremonies from now on. A couple of technology and maintenance updates. So technology, the Gear Up purchase is complete. We've acquired a new set of Surface Pro laptops that'll be in use at the high school next year. And this proves that technology is now going to have to be a greater focus for the year ahead. As we look to curriculum updates, the first priority at the high school with any funds available for COVID support, we'll be looking for strong online components. Both English and Science have identified texts for purchase that include online learning components when funds become available. As far as maintenance, I know there's been some talk of Mr. Becker's metal shop and also the wood shop and the condition of those buildings. Those at this point are beyond the scope and sequence of our custodial staff and their ability to work day to day within their job descriptions. We've been counting on our outside agencies to work with us on those. We actually requested a bid on installing a new heating system early in the winter this year. However, like many other companies, including the schools, Reese Electric, which is out abandoned, that we've been working with on that, was shut down, at least for parts of the COVID-19 situation, and they have not completed a bid. I have asked them to go ahead and do that. In fact, I spoke to them today. They told me that they will have it to me next week. Not that these things haven't been a priority. In fact, if anyone has any questions about those, they can always feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to answer questions about it. Goals for next year. As we look ahead, ODE guidelines, we've had less than a week to process the document that was released from ODE and the implications that it will have on our school and district. While things will change, they are not insurmountable changes. We're looking to have every student back on campus in the fall every day, but things will look different to comply with guidelines. Nothing is impossible with the support of our staff and our community, which again, graduation went a long way to show, because it really does go to show that when the community rallies around this school, it's a huge thing. The other thing that I usually update you guys on, sports, because that's been a big question in the community as well. OSAA and the independent leagues, independent individual leagues, are still working to identify targets and requirements for practices and participation. These requirements change almost daily and have not had time to take into account ODE regulations and guidelines. Our athletic director, Mr. Swift, has asked coaches to begin identifying goals, plans, potential numbers for student participation in sports. Those coaches, Michelle Pierce will be returning as our volleyball coach. And as of today, Chris Higgins was officially recommended for our head football coach position at the high school. And the last point that I wanted to make about sports is, again, I left it on from last month. These events are important to our students and our community, and they are important to us. Their priority is our academics are always first, but athletics are a major source of motivation for both our students and for our community at large. So it's one of the things that we really value, and we are going to do what we can to make sure that they still have an opportunity to participate. And that's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Metzger. Any questions for Josh? All right. Superintendent report, Mr. Wilson.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My report is fairly brief because I have a kind of a big section at the end of the meeting. But as far as enrollment, numbers didn't necessarily change, but I will say that both of our school offices have been accepting applications for families to consider virtual charter schools as an alternative to returning to our schools. I think Riley Creek specifically has processed about 6 applications in the last week. Part of that, we fully understand that local families have a lot of reasons to consider alternative settings like a virtual charter school. We just hope that the community can hang in there for a little bit longer until we fully develop our return to school. One of the requirements, as I'll be going through during my presentation, is that there is a comprehensive distance learning component in the event that we have to switch to that during the next few months or the next year. And again, I've never, as a professional, never questioned a parent's opinion or thoughts about why they would consider other than what we have. But with that said, if we do see more people considering other alternatives, it does have an impact on the district. And so again, as it was stated earlier with Mr. Denning, we wish for a little bit of more patience, another month or so we can fully get our plan out so people can make informed decisions around that. Ready School, Safe Learners, that's the new ODE guidance around their opening of schools. I'll be talking about that a little bit more later in the meeting, but I did want to share that I've appointed a task force that represents administration, teachers, and community partners. Our first meeting is actually tomorrow. They'll be meeting on a weekly basis to go through that 37 pages of guidance and get us all set and ready for the beginning of the school year. I've had many parents and community members also express an interest of being part of that process. And so the first community parent meeting actually is a week from tonight at 6 o'clock. A press release went out today to the newspapers. I'll put it on Facebook later tonight. And I've, through email, contacted those parents and community members who have shown a specific interest in being a part of that. And that's really important so that we can, sorry, my mom was calling me on my phone. So we can have that communication and feedback. It's important that we, again, try to do this transparently through that process. So I look forward to those community forums. I know summer times are difficult. I have scheduled those in the evenings, so that would allow working families to be able to attend an early evening meeting rather than have it during the school day or the work day. So besides working through those plans and for Ready Schools, I also have a team that's working on our district emergency operations plan. We met yesterday for about 4 hours discussing specifically infectious disease protocols, and it goes right aligned with our return to school plans. And then finally, I wanted to remind you and the public that our summer meals program began this week. It's Monday through Friday from 11 to 12:30 at Riley Creek. This is our free summer program for children/students ages 1 to 18. We're still in the grab and go session, but we again encourage folks to come out and partake in that. This year we have expanded to Monday through Friday rather than the Monday through Thursday that we've had in the past. So those meals are being served through August 14th. That's my report for now. You'll hear back from me later in the agenda.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Let's see. We will move to number 7, the budget hearing, 7.1. I will officially declare the budget hearing open and move to 7.2, discuss budget additions/corrections since budget committee approval on June 3rd, 2020. I went back and looked at it one last time, and I really have nothing to add at this point. Any other board members have any comments or questions about the budget?
Mr. Wright, I would like to remind you that I do have a couple of public comments pertaining specifically to the budget.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it was intentional, but we don't actually adopt the resolution until new business. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep.
So I'll go ahead and read those comments at this time.
Okay.
Great. The first one is from Brianna McGinnis. Dear members of the board, thank you to each and every one of you for volunteering your time to sit on our school board. It is oftentimes a thankless job. However, I want you to know that teachers appreciate your hard work and dedication in making sure our school district gets the resources it needs to help our students succeed. It is as a teacher in the 3-5 wing and as a parent of children in the K-5 that I respectfully submit this comment. Many of you know that I support adding another elementary teacher so that we have a total of 12 in K-5. I know this is a top priority for the school board as well, but I thought seeing current student data might further help in your decision-making process. Here are a couple K-5 class scenarios with 11 teachers being considered as of last week. In scenario 1, there are 11 teachers with 2 blends, and those would create these class sizes. Kindergarten is still in process. First grade would have 20 and 20. Second grade, 23 with a 2-3 blend for a total of 18. And then third grade would be 22, 22. Fourth grade, 26. A 4-5 blend of 19. And then a fifth grade of 28. A second scenario that Bree shares is similar, but with just one blend, 2 firsts, 20 and 20, 2 seconds, 16 and 17, 2 thirds, 25 and 25, a fourth with 26, the 4-5 blend with 19, and the fifth grade with 28. You can see that both of these scenarios are not ideal for 4th and 5th grade students. The first scenario reduces class size for 3rd grade slightly, but causes a 2-3 blend. Traditionally, numbers always go up in the fall when school starts by 2 to 5 students per grade level. However, with our current situation with COVID, they may not. Regardless, it would be ideal to have 2 teachers per grade level to reduce class sizes and eliminate blends through K-5, and also help in meeting the new ODE requirements released last week regarding social distancing and individualizing education for students. Class sizes with 12 teachers would look something like this with our current student numbers. First grade 2020, second grade 16-17, third grade 25-25, fourth grade 18-18, and fifth grade 19-18. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Brianna McGinnis. Our second comment, comes from Jared and Christina Rhodes. First, we'd like to say thank you for taking the time to address our concerns and questions surrounding the 2021 budget. We have a vested interest in our Gold Beach schools as we have 2 children attending Riley Creek Elementary in the 3-5 range. We implore you all to do the right thing when it comes to our children and their futures. Please see our comments below. Number 1, where is the contact information located for each of the school board members? Since each member is an elected position holding a public office, we should be able to contact each one individually if the need arises. Number 2, given the new ODE spacing requirements for classrooms and the current number of children in each class, hiring a new 3-5 grade level educator is paramount. Unless the goal of this panel is to see more children lost to homeschooling, I move to make this a priority of the utmost importance, period. Right now in first grade, they're scheduled to have 41 students, second grade 33, third grade 50, fourth grade 36, and fifth grade 37. The email goes on to quote some of the guidance in the Ready Schools Safe Learners. Under physical distancing, one of the requirements is to establish a minimum of 35 square feet per person when determining room capacity. Calculate only with usable classroom space, understanding that desks and room setup will require use of all space in the calculation. Secondly, classroom repurposed learning spaces. A requirement is in the area of seating to rearrange student desks and other seat spaces to be at least 6 feet apart. Assign seating so students are in the same seat at all times. Every business is required to look within its own budget and adjust spending based on needs of the organization. The school district is just like any other business. The reallocation of funds must be based on the importance of the mission at hand. The quality of education within our schools is our mission objective. Salary increases for the administration and support staff, while also of importance, should be secondary and only at the appropriate times. Very respectfully, Jared and Christina Rhodes. Those are the comments we received by noon today.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Before I close the budget hearing, just one more time, any board members have any additions or corrections to the budget? All right. I officially declare the budget hearing closed. And we will move to the next agenda item under old business, 8.1, the state budget update. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of updates since our last meeting. The closest I can give to any funding news is that the governor did declare that on June 24th, a week from today, there would be a special session for the legislature to return to Salem. However, the only two items they are going to be discussing at this point are the impact of COVID-19 and law enforcement considerations. However, part of the strategy that we have heard through COSA is that across the land in Washington, D.C., the Congress is in the process of considering a second CARES Act federal support, with the idea that the funding that the feds would return then back to the states would lessen the impact on the Oregon's economy and the amount of money that potentially would have to be reduced to local school districts and other state agencies. So hopefully the timing of Congress's decision will then align with the governor having the legislature come back and meet. We don't have a date yet, but hopefully in the month of July to give us more accurate considerations for less or maybe no reductions in school funding, which would be great news. That's the update on the budget.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. 8.2, we're going to review goals from this year and establish board goals for 2021. And I don't, in the board packet, the extra packet, there's a 2-pager on that has our existing goals for 1920 and then suggested goals for 2021. We talked about this briefly last month. Obviously, you know, we have this debate every year, you know, the board business goals that need to be attained regardless, and then kind of loftier, more long-term goals. Does everybody have a copy of that or has looked at it?
I'm going to try to pull those up for the audience as well.
Okay. Yeah, that would be fine. So yeah, I mean, just as a starter, number one, you know, investigate the possibility to reconfigure grade levels, you know, to K-8 and 9-12, or from K-8 to 9-12 to K-6, 7-12 for not for this upcoming year, but for the year after. And I think we're all pretty much in agreement that we've discussed it in the past, and I think it's, you know, at a minimum, we need to look at it and see what makes it worthwhile. Look at the data and see if it's worthwhile. Number 2, and these are suggestions for next year: improve instructional and operational model related to pandemic and other emergency situations. I think we can all wholeheartedly endorse that one. The bullets on that: evaluate technology requirements within the buildings and in the community to increase internet access. Oh yeah, there it is. Develop a standard platform for distance learning, provide professional development for staff teaching in a hybrid situation, and complete the emergency operations plan that addresses potential emergencies, including natural and pandemic disasters. So yeah, those are 2 I am in favor of having on the list. You know, we kind of try and keep it to 4 or 5. I also, you know, maybe not as a primary goal, but just as a secondary, to continue the push, and it kind of falls into number 2 on technology, just continuing with the tech committee, improving infrastructure, continuing all the things we've been doing on the tech side. Other board members, I've been talking a lot. Does anybody have any thoughts here?
I think that second suggested goal, improve instructional and operational model related to pandemic and other emergency situations, is probably our first goal. I think that that's what we're focusing on. You should be focusing on.
Absolutely.
I agree with you, Kaylee, and Mandy. Being the most emergent issue. And I guess three of our last year's goals and number 1 of the proposed tying into each other. Or wait, I'm sorry. I was looking at number 3, long range facility plan, also tying in with the move of the K 912 into the high school, kind of being things that mesh together there.
I echo a lot of those statements. Continuing with long-range facilities plans, but also the prioritizing deferred maintenance. I mean, deferred maintenance across all the buildings has been a topic for, you know, forever.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely discouraging to continue to hear the bad side of some of the things we're not getting done. You know, that's a hard one to swallow, because I feel like every year we've had deferred maintenance, and you know, we've stated multiple times just finding some small targets and getting them done. And so that one's upsetting, and I just want to highlight that. I echo Haley's thoughts on the suggested additions. I see the value in the reconfiguration. You know, it's doing more, or the basic idea with doing more with the same amount of staff and that we have is a bonus. I just feel like I don't want it to get lost in next year. I think we have a lot of big and hard conversations and a lot of things to set in motion, and this is also equally in size. And I'd be hesitant to advertise that right now when we have a lot of work to do just getting kids back in the school in the fall.
I agree, Scott.
Yeah, me as well.
Good
Seems
point,
like
Scott.
the timeline for that would be, like you're saying, Scott, a little pushy. I mean, there's a lot going on, right? Adding that to the docket.
Well,
And
and
yeah.
an emotionally charged component also. And
Yeah, it was interesting when I first drafted these goals. It was pre-pandemic, and so I fully concur that things have changed. And but knowing that it was a topic that the board has been interested in a while, I don't have a problem having that one fall off into another time. Perhaps I will make that one of my performance goals for the board this year, is to go ahead and continue doing the research, and then potentially, as you stated, Scott, this type of reconfiguration is as large as Ready Schools, Safe Learners. And so we want to make sure we do it well. And if that means postponing it to 22, 23, or maybe not at all, but at least we've done some work and found out what the benefits are. But I hear you out as far as getting through this unusual year to come is probably significant in itself to do well.
Yeah, I would say echo as well that, the data is what I'm most interested in, at this point. I mean, the thought of trying to do that even next year seems pretty daunting at the moment. And I'm also in favor of, like I say, traditionally we do 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 goals. I would be okay with honing it down to, 1 or 2, top priorities for the short term to really focus on, along with our business as usual board matters.
Would you like me to put this on the July agenda for final consideration?
Yeah. I was going to ask at the top there. I mean, I don't want to make any decisions tonight, really, until we know what our budget is really going to look like. The total dollars are going to be. I think we're on the right track and close.
Very good.
Anybody else have any other comments there?
I would like to see the district leadership team work stay on there if it's possible, to keep doing that work.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we kind of got derailed with our whatever that program was called with Renee.
The Promise Scholarship.
Yeah, and I've been on that one for a while. Those meetings are some of the best collaborative work that we really do, in my opinion, and have done in the past. So I agree. If not, we'll see how it goes, but at least keep them on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
When time permits, will it be possible to meet up with them again, even in a Zoom platform, if need be? But I don't know what Renee's schedule was. She pretty much, it was canceled, right? Our last session with Renee.
Yeah, I think until maybe September.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
I agree. I mean, those meetings are incredibly helpful in moving together as a district. So when we can resume those that would be great.
Okay.
Sorry, Ines. I was going to say, I don't personally see those goals changing much, other than, adding number 2 into our current ones. And those are a lot of those things. If you read through them, I mean, there's still important targets for the board to keep trying to improve and work on.
All right. Well, in the meantime, between now and July, if anybody, we can put our thoughts on paper and send them to Tim and be ready to adopt in July, hopefully. All right. We will move on to new business then. 9.1, second reading of proposed policy EBCA, the emergency plans. There's no edits here. It looks good to me.
Would you like me to bring that up for the audience, Andy, or?
Sure, if they want to take a look at it.
Okay.
And this is just is this a new policy or an update?
This is a new policy.
Yeah, okay.
It's one that we should have had in place, but it wasn't until pandemic time that we realized that we didn't.
Well, yeah, anybody have anything on that one? I move to approve, sorry, proposed policy EBCA as presented.
Second.
We'll call the roll here. Scott McNair,
I second and an affirmative vote.
Luke Martinez,
Aye.
Kaylee Clarno,
That's aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
Andy Wright is an aye. Okay. 9.2, first reading of proposed policy JHH in regards to suicide prevention.
So one of the laws passed in the last legislative session was to make sure that all school districts had a policy in place by July 1st of 2020 that would address suicide prevention as far as curriculum and specific practices to be in place in the unfortunate time of a situation like that. Both OSBA and ODE have been a little slow in getting actual policies and materials out. However, those are coming through right now. And so after the adoption of this policy, then one of the other items we'll be doing this summer is identifying a specific curriculum and reaching out to local agencies and supports to have this in place. As a reminder, I do sit on the Curry County Council for Suicide Prevention, and so I'm kind of the educational conduit for that. So I've got a lot of resources that will help our school district with these programs for our kids and families.
All right. Any questions on that one? Very good. We'll get it in for next month then.
Yes.
Okay. 9.3, resolution to adopt the budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes for 2020-21. And I nominate someone other than myself to read all that. If somebody has it available, if not, I do have it. You're muted.
Have it in front of me, Andy. I don't see it, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Like me to read it?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Wait, do you have it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It says,
Go ahead.
Central Curry School District, number 1, resolution adopting budget. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Central Curry School District 1 hereby adopts the budget for fiscal year 2020-21 in the sum of $8,967,908 now on file in the district administrative office. And then there's a resolution for making appropriations. Be it resolved that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and for the purposes shown below are hereby appropriated as follows. 100 general fund in the area of 1,000 instruction, $3,429,360. For 2,000 support services, $2,927,376. 3,000 enterprise and community services for $421,480, and under 5,000 other uses, specifically 5,100 debt service, $67,326, under 5,200 transfers, $1,000, and under 6,000 contingency, $244,571 for a total general fund of $7,091,113. We have the 200 special revenue fund under 1,000 instruction, $1,016,168, under 2,000 support services, $459,402, and under total special, so the total special revenue fund is $1,475,570. And the final fund is 300 debt service fund under 500 other uses, specifically 5,100 debt service, $387,650, and that is the total appropriated debt service fund. But there's also 7,000 unappropriated ending fund balance of $13,575 for for a total debt service fund of $401,225. And the final resolution is imposing and categorizing taxes combined. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Central Curry School District 1 hereby imposes the taxes provided for in the adopted budget at the rate of 3.9171 per $1,000 of assessed value for operations and in the amount of $394,866 for bonds, and that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for tax year 2020-21 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district. So general fund falls under the education portion of 3.9171 per $1,000 of assessed value, and the debt service fund falls under excluded from limitation in the amount of $394,866, and it's dated June 17th, 2020.
All right. Thank you, Crystal, for reading all that. That is so moved by me. So I'll take a second.
I second the motion.
All those in favor, we'll call the roll. Scott McNair,
Aye.
Luke Martinez,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
and Andy Wright is an aye. Budget adopted. 9.4, review of Ready School Safe Learners guidance for the 2020-21 school year. And before I turn Tim loose, I just kind of have this is just individual board member Andy speaking his opinion on the subject. It is my goal and hope to have, and Tom kind of discussed it a little bit. I want all kids in the building on a 5-day-a-week schedule to the fullest extent possible. I think the damage being done to some of the kids that don't have internet access or technology access or support on multiple fronts, a combination of all those three. The idea of trying to split for working parents some days a week, home some days, I hope we don't have to do that, and I don't want to do that. So that's just my personal goal. I wanted to state that right from the outset, and I'll let Tim go here.
All right, thank you. And I think we all would concur with that. Bless you. This is a lot of information. Whoops. Let me get back here. Everybody see the screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, super. This was, as we share, I again want to try to make this as brief as possible because this information, I will be starting after tonight's meeting a spot on our webpage, district webpage, that will have all the information that I'm going to present tonight, so it's always available for our public. This is a document that's been quoted and viewed by many of our teachers and community members throughout the week, and to me that's a good sign that we all have the same information, and we're all going to use our expertise as we have it, and then bring in our parents and community and other levels of expertise to make this a guidance that I think we all want, and that is for all kids to return to school in the fall as what we used to call normal. With that, this is the presentation that ODE gave to superintendents last Wednesday afternoon. I presented this to district staff last Thursday. I've taken out a few slides and added a couple just to make it a little bit more local. And so with that said, I'm going to buzz through the information as information to you as a board for the first time. So here we go. So included in the presentation today were just a brief overview of the guidance, what the next steps are. One of the buzzwords you're going to hear is called operational blueprint. Essentially, that means that every school, not a district, but every school has to have their own operational blueprint that is then approved by the local board. and submitted to ODE. Through this process, the state has had the challenge in trying to serve schools as small as my former district in Mitchell, Oregon, with 45 kids on campus, to Portland Public with its thousands and thousands, and trying to do a one size fits all was impossible. So as much of cynics that we want to be, or critics of this work, it really is pretty amazing that they've come up with some guidance that allows local control and local planning, because what we do here is going to look different than even what looks like in Coquille or Newport, or obviously in the Valley. So that's some good. And our small size is also going to, as a district, is going to be a benefit to us as well. But it's not to say without challenge. And so including in this, there'll be some instructional models that we're challenged to put together with new guidelines that are, some are required, some are recommended, but it really does encompasses whole district operations, from buses to food service to the instructional model, to how kids move, to how we protect and clean and sanitize more than we've ever done before, and in conclusion, to be prepared in the unfortunate situation where we may have to have another type of shutdown or shelter in place. So those guiding principles: ensuring safety and wellness, cultivating connections with relationships. I think we would all agree as professionals, as parents and community members, that was a difficult one during our recent distance learning for all, to make those connections with all families and all kids to the level that we should have. Equity is also in the center of all of our decisions, trying our best to have every student and every family have the same access as best as we can. And in these times, we are going to have to be creative in some ways to make these things happen. So the guidelines, again called Ready Schools, Safe Learners, are statewide requirements in those 4 areas, but the decision making is made at the local level. We'll come up with some operational blueprints that will be shared prior to the school year beginning, not only with the board, but with the community throughout the summer. And then make sure there's a process to take care of concerns that come along the way. This is the front cover of the book. There's 8 sections in the book. I'll go into those a little bit, so I'll just move on here. You'll notice this is version 1. ODE has already told us there will be at least 3 other versions this summer, and those have been basically June 30th, July 20th, and August 1st. There'll be updates throughout the summer. So the unfortunate part of this is doing all of our planning now, and then the rules might change 2 weeks from now. We hope that those changes that occur are to our benefit and not to be more restrictive. So quickly, you'll see there's kind of 2 sides of the operational blueprint. The left-hand side really relate to the majority, the first emphasis of work, and that's to make sure that we follow all of the new physical distancing and hygiene, sanitation protocols, that we have relationships with our local public health agency, Cherie Good at Curry County Health Department, that we run our school days the best we can with those restrictions, and that we're prepared in the event that we have an outbreak, whether it's regarding one student, one family, or staff members, how we react to those circumstances and how that impacts our day-to-day operations. The second part, of course, you see here is around the instructional model. I'm going to spend a lot of time, more time on that tonight than the other parts, but as you see here, having family and community engagement is an integral part to have that sounding board for input and reflection as we move forward. And finally, we have to worry about our at the forefront. This isn't all just about curriculum work, but this is also how we re-engage our students mentally and socially and emotionally in those transitions back to school, and that knowing at any one time a family may be impacted with the pandemic or some other condition, and we have to be ready to support those as well as our staff. So the blueprint, again, will be done for each school. We'll be working with our community partners to help us with that, primarily the local health agency. And our requirement is that we have it to the state by August the 15th. However, there will be a little bit of leniency for you to see it at your August meeting. I will be given an update in July, on July 15th at our next board meeting. So some of the nuts and bolts around that planning, as I shared earlier, I've identified a planning team that represents has both principals, 2 high school teachers and 2 Riley Creek teachers, and then 2 community partners that represent youth-related activities, that being 4-H, the Extension Service, and Ascend. Of that members, 6 of those team members are also parents, and so they can wear the parent hat when necessary to see things from not only a professional level, but also from a parent level. We plan to meet weekly throughout the summer until that work is complete. As I've shared a couple times, again, we have a lot of interest in our community on what this is going to look like, and we appreciate having that opportunity to meet. So our first meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday night here at the high school. If we can stay around the 20 to 25-ish, I think we'll be okay as far as, but we will make this meeting available via Zoom for those who aren't able to attend live. Executive Order 2020 from the governor has a little bit more strict rules for school and school facilities. So on June 30th, that order expires unless it's extended. And so after, what I'm saying is that after on July 1st, there's some relaxed restrictions around the use of school and having meetings, which would include our board meetings. Again, kind of waiting for if that executive order is extended or not. Bottom line, weekly meetings with the planning team, and then at our meeting next week with the parents and community, we will establish what our meeting schedule will be. If we meet once a week, every other week, have subcommittees, it just depends on the direction we go with the group. These are just some reminders about the importance of as we develop our plan. I think Dr. Fauci will, for most of us, is seen as a pretty brilliant man, and this is a quote that we see quite often: "You don't make the timeline, the virus makes the timeline." So basically, we're not science experts. Our guidance for schools really comes through partnership from ODE and the Oregon Health Authority. And so they're the ones that are going to set the rules. And we've all seen in the news the last couple of weeks, the less restrictions there's the potential that increases transmission. We've been very fortunate in Curry County. Let's hope that continues, that we all stay healthy and safe. But we're coming into the summer season where we have a lot of travelers coming through. We just don't know what the impact is. So if those primary tools around physical distancing and hygiene that you're going to see in the plan are in place, then we are done the best we can to prepare for any future considerations or conditions that come up. Here are the key principles for reducing that exposure. The physical distancing. We can still have that 6 feet contact. You'll see it in another context in a moment, 35 square feet per person in a room. We can tell a little bit about what that looks like. Having frequent opportunities to wash your hands. We will have hand sanitizers in every room, at every entrance to the building. We have already switched over our paper towel dispensers to be touchless. We have touchless soap dispensers. We're working on touchless sink utensils, if you will, or handles and such. One of the other words you're going to see in the guidance are cohorts. That idea, if you can keep a certain group of students together throughout the day, then that will again minimize the mixing of groups. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. There are some requirements and recommendations about who wears face shields or face coverings. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Extreme amount of guidance around cleaning and disinfection throughout the day, not just first thing in the morning or in the evening, it's throughout the day. That there's a plan to isolate people who potentially are ill, regardless if it's the COVID or some other type of illness, that we have specific procedures in place to isolate those folks so they can get the best care possible. And as you said, in conclusion, going outside and having some activities is always good, clean, fresh air. This is a slide that originated with CDC on the national level. I know the print is really small, but essentially column 1 says if you can't guarantee that the health and safety requirements are met in your building, then don't open, and you go fully online. The second column is developing your blueprint and having it submitted to the board, having it out for the community to see, and having a communicable disease management plan on file. That was what we were working on yesterday in our emergency planning session. If we've done that, we move to the third column. So we're still yes, yes. And then are we ready with our safety procedures in place? And we have partnerships with public health, and is that plan communicated to families? Yes, we open school. So these are not only are we discussing and planning for all of the hygiene and movement and classroom sizes and all of that, that's column 1. That's on site, with the goal being that all students return in person, meeting all those new requirements. In my introductory comments, I talked about the challenge probably that comes with large schools. I was in a group yesterday, where you have David Douglas High School with 2,600 students on campus. That's going to look a lot different than 150 at Gold Beach High School as far as how you manage the abilities to have so many people in one place and follow these rules. So that's where some of the early conversations about, until we could confirm the classroom capacities for our specific schools in their classrooms, there was some early talks about some type of hybrid model, meaning that we would potentially have a group come every other day, or maybe they were with the teacher in the morning while the other half of the class was with an aide, and they switched. There are just so many different possibilities. So that's in the future what you'll be called as hybrid. At this point, hybrid is not necessarily looking at it's not changing the number of days of kids coming to school, because our preliminary work shows that we're going to be able to have all school kids here every day. But in this category, it gives us the possibilities if we have to do something different in altering that schedule. The third column is something we also had to be prepared for, even though we may not have to implement it, and that's that all students are engaged in distance learning. There are some other variations on that comprehensive distance learning. And that comes into, need a little bit more information on that, but as an example, we may have families in our community that even though we have all of the safeguards in place, they may not feel quite comfortable yet to have their students come back to school. So rather than students going back or leaving the district and going to a virtual charter school or going to homeschooling, that the district would have its own online learning environment. That takes a lot of preparation. Our teachers did a phenomenal job in the last 3 months putting together a temporary model. We've already had conversations about trying to have similar platforms and make it a lot, and this is coming back again, feedback from students and staff and from parents. We've ways to improve what that distance learning model would look like. The reality could come, as much as we're in our brick and mortar, if you will, of on-site learning, if we were to have an outbreak of some sort where the Oregon Health Authority would say, we need to close our doors, our instructional model has to be ready essentially within 48 hours to say, okay, now everyone is moving to distance learning. So it's going to take a lot of prep time to get that ready as kind of insurance. But there may be more development of that as it relates to keeping families within our district through an online environment. This goes into a little bit more of that in smaller print, so I won't go all over all that at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back and just share one thing. You'll see hear about nutrition and meal service. Again, kudos to Lee Kitchen, his staff, our folks who went out, our staff members who went out and delivered meals and homework the past 3 months. That food service is still expected. So if we have students in either the hybrid model or in the comprehensive model, we have to be ready to have that food service for home delivery back in place and ready to go. So it's just another reminder of some of the things that we learned over the last couple months that were successes. We'll need to modify it and refine, but also have it ready to go within 48 hours notice if that's what it takes. One of the big topics is face covering, and I'll share a little bit about that in a second, but essentially people in different positions as far as staff will be required to wear a face covering, and it could be teachers depending on how close they are with students. If you think about a high school teacher as an example, they may be able to have no mask on while they're lecturing, but as soon as they go and talk with students individually and there's closer proximity, they would put their face covering on. Bus drivers, food service, they are required at all times when they're with students to have a face shield or face covering. And then you're going to see either instructionally or in our offices some clear plastic barriers between the public and the office staff, as well as think of a situation where we have a student who's receiving speech services and they have that very close proximity as a part of their therapy and learning. So barriers like this would be in between the student and the instructor to make that acceptable. There are areas of our school, if you look at these are maybe for a lot of us, these were the areas that kept us excited about going to school. Sorry to those who are awesome science, English, history, math teachers, but these activity classes, again, tend to be ones that have a higher risk because they're sharing equipment, or if you're a music person like I was, kids are, when they're singing or when they're playing an instrument, stuff can come out, and so there's a little higher risk. So we just have to be extra cautious on how we prepare these students for these types of classes. Now, this also reminds me of athletics. Mr. Metzger responded to or talked about it briefly before. We're still waiting for guidance regarding fall sports or all sports and other activities. So just be aware, and please keep, we will make announcements throughout the summer as that guidance is given. But if you think about it from I'm just going to say it, a logical person might think if we're making, in a classroom, we're having 35 feet per person in a classroom, it's kind of hard to play football when you're 35 square feet apart from each other. It's the big holes for kids to rush in it's going to be tough. Or the idea that there's only one ball for volleyball, but 12 people are going to touch it. So those are some of the things they're trying to work out and try to maintain the safety concerns. But it's going to impact those activities as we traditionally see them. I don't want to go into all the depth, but I just thought very briefly I would show you three real quick items. This is an example of the physical distancing requirements. You can see that minimum of 35 square feet per person. So I've gone into each classroom. I had the square footage already determined, took away the teacher desks, the file cabinets, the kids' desks, came up with the amount, divided that by 35, and we determined then how many people can be in each room in our district. And they range from 16 or 17 up to as large as 26 and 27 of people who could be in a classroom having instruction and meeting these social physical distancing requirements. Okay, we're gonna, again, the way that kids line up to go to the bathroom, line up to get cafeteria food, how they move throughout the building. Those are things that is the minutia, if you will, that we have to determine and then teach like crazy. We're not looking right now at modifying our schedules or limiting number of students. If we had to do that, that fits in this category. But as I've said several times before, we don't anticipate that. Probably our biggest challenge is going to be having kids gather, at lunchtime and in those social situations, like kids like to do, and then just continuing to remind them about physical distancing. Cohorting, again, is a word you're going to hear a lot about. That idea that if we have, as an example, a first grade cohort. Miss Van Hall's class is an example. That's an example. In elementary, it's a little easier to visualize this, where you have that group of students that are together all day. They eat together. They have class together. They have recess together. And that helps to control the spreading potentially of the disease. Some of the difficult challenges that we see in this is that we have to have daily logs systems in place where we have to show contact tracing. And that actually starts when kids get on the bus. We need to know what kid was in what seat. I foresee that kids will be on buses in assigned seats. And so if the kid in seat 5 ends up being sick later in the day, we can go back and see who was in seat 7 and seat 12, or in a classroom, who was that student sitting next to, what reading group was he in. So it helps to find out what potentially other students or staff that might be impacted. So that's a system within itself. Constant cleaning and wiping of surfaces. We might have some of that be done by students, depending age appropriately. There might be some class monitors, depending again on the cleanser. But our custodial staff will be essentially just cleaning all day, including every time a group goes out to the playground, has to go out and be completely cleaned and wiped down before the next group goes out and uses the playground. I've alluded to transportation. This is the last one I'm going to in any depth. That all the buses will be cleaned in between routes. We've already purchased some equipment that will go in and disinfect the surfaces inside the buses and so on. We'll work with families, you know, if they, as we always do, if there are any special needs required around transportation. There are going to be those situations we need to work out, that if potentially the bus driver notices that a kid doesn't look quite himself or looks maybe ill, that once they're on the bus, they would bring them to school, but they would be in an isolated area on the bus, kind of the safe zone, if you will, that isolation zone. And then once the student gets to school, then we can diagnose from there. So as you can see already, just in these 3 examples, a lot of systems within systems that we need to clarify and communicate and teach and reteach. And hopefully everyone would understand it's under the guise of safety and hygiene. We will continue to solicit family and community input throughout the summer. Please keep abreast of those meetings. We'll be doing announcements will be on a district webpage, as well as our Facebook page, potentially robocalls as well, for those who can have the opportunity to see us during the summer. We'll be working with our local health authority. There are tons and tons and tons of resources that the public, board members, staff can look. This is, you go to oregon.gov/ODE, and there's the first thing you'll see is Ready Schools, Safe Learners. Click on that, and you can see all the different resources that are available. I talked about earlier about the 3 updates during the summer that we will continue to get guidance. That's, again, just the chance that we have that the work we do today and next week could change by July 21, but that's just the way it is, so we have to accept that. They're always, ODE is always accepting feedback. And so there is a specific email address that folks can send in their questions or comments directly to ODE. It's at readyschools@ode.state.or.us. Again, this information will all be on our district webpage for people to refer to later. With that, I think I got it done in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to close the screen and ask the board if there are any first questions.
Anyone?
I don't have any questions right now. I'm looking forward to next week's meeting and learning more and digging into it.
Great, thank you.
It almost seems somewhat daunting.
It is.
Yeah.
It is going to be a daunting project. But I'm confident with the team that we have and the interest that our community has to make it all work. Because I think we all want to come back to school as regular as possible.
Go ahead, Scott.
I just want to join Andy in saying, I just want the public perception to know that the board, or at least this is my opinion, the board wants kids back in school full time, to echo Andy. I feel like the public has jumped the gun and is, feeding off of that perception that there's a potential we won't go back to school in the fall, and it's causing a lot of emotional response. And I think it's just important to put that out there, that we're starting the approach with how do we get kids back in school full time. That is our goal. It's unfortunate the government, the way they think, it just proves again, the government is backwards. The hurdles, I think that they first start with how many rules can we make, And then can we make enough rules that no one can follow them? And I dislike that approach a lot. And it's going to be a long process, and I'm glad you're getting it started, and I want to go after that completely. So thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Tim on this subject? Very good. Tim, you all finished?
I am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll move to individual board member reports. I will say I have officially nothing else to add for this evening. Kaylee?
We have some big hurdles that we are gonna have to jump over in the next coming months, and I just want to thank everybody who's here on this meeting and folks who have been engaged, bringing their comments and their energy. We're definitely gonna have to work together to figure all of this out. And so I hope that folks can stay productive and helpful in the way that they're communicating, because we all want to work together.
All right. Thank you. Luke, you have anything to add tonight?
No, I just kind of sentiment on some of the things you guys have talked about. But thank you, Mr. Wilson, for all the hard work that you are putting forth on these tasks that have unfolded before us. And yeah, thank you for all the public comments we've been receiving and everybody that is attending tonight via Zoom to continue helping our community through this process of getting back into school. So thank you for all being here and listening.
Thanks, Luke. Nancy, anything?
I have a little something.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Denning, Mr. Metzger, and Mr. Wilson, and also the staff along with Mrs. McGinnis. Both of the graduations at Riley Creek and Gold Beach High School were both amazing. And I know that we have a daunting task in front of us, but they proved that we can at least have some type of celebration. And I have to say it was quite nice at Riley Creek, and enjoyed very much all the videos and things that were on Facebook for parents to be shared in. So a very nice time for graduates in consideration of the COVID-19. So thank you very much for all the staff and the people and the volunteers that helped pull that off. I really appreciate it and enjoyed it. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Nancy. And I did forget to mention that. Yeah, both ceremonies, we did the best with what we had, and I thought it went very well. So, Mr. Vice Chairman McNair, thoughts, comments, questions?
I think I'm all good. I just want to put it out there that we, the board, we're not disconnected from the issues that people bring to the table. We're also parents, and we're aware, and we're making a best effort to do the best we can with the best of our capabilities. There was a lot of great things happening leading up to all of a sudden March to school being canceled abruptly. And, Kaylee hit on like the district leadership team when, formulating long range plans. We had started doing that and having great conversation as a board with the district leadership teams, which is your teacher leaders throughout the district, and all of that was going really well. And it's just we're dealing with the current events and where we've ended up right now, and there's some scrambling going on. And I have total confidence. Mr. Wilson, this is my third superintendent that I have been under in the 7 years. I'm starting my 8th year on the school board in July. And one thing I will give a lot of credit to Mr. Wilson. He's very effective at facilitating conversation. When we come to a meeting, we're not all kind of as a board trying to figure out what we should say or what's the right thing to say. But he kind of helps us work through. He's been an administrator. He's been a principal. He's been a teacher. We're just parents out there trying to do a good job. So I really appreciate that level of facilitation. And I kind of want to highlight that because I think if, especially in the Zoom meeting setting, if people come to one meeting and watch the meeting and think that we as a board aren't having the conversations about maybe what they want to hear about at that meeting, that's just a snapshot into a whole year where we're meeting 12 months out of the year every day. And Mr. Wilson has done a good job throughout the entire year of reiterating those points and helping us form that shared vision of the district. And so when we go into some of the meetings, I think we are all as a unit thinking, I mean, I can't say for sure, it's my opinion, but we're all with the shared vision. So when he speaks, he's essentially speaking with a board approval in that sense. And I just want to ask everybody to trust the leadership of Mr. Wilson, and all of us join. And we're all in this for the same game. We may have different ideas of how we get there, but we're all looking for the same thing, and that's for kids. And we all share that. So thank you. I'm going to step down from my soapbox.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dates and calendar updates. Oregon School Board Association Virtual Summer Conference, July 11th, 2020, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. If anybody's interested, I think we've gotten emails with all the details on that. Next regular.
I was going to share. We do have Kaylee, Luke, and Nancy's registrations in.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Wonder where mine is.
I don't know.
Next regular board meeting, July 15th, 2020. Are we meeting in the library, or we just going to roll with Zoom through the summer?
I believe that our intent is to meet in the library,
Okay.
but we will post it as soon as we have verification that order has been lifted.
Okay, very good. Well, there's nothing else. I will adjourn this meeting at 7:40 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.